That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A few things before we get started. I just want to remind everybody to head over to our Patreon and sign up. It's only $5 per month, where we do exclusive webinars and we have a lot of bonus content over there. The most recent webinar we finished was Project Crystal Night, or The Secret Journey to Planet Serpo, and it was a lot of fun. We just did that Sunday evening. It was a 3-hour webinar. And it will eventually be released publicly on our Rumble, but for now it's exclusively on Patreon, and there's a lot of other bonus content and exclusive content over there. So if you haven't yet checked it out, go sign up for that. It's only $5, like I said, and that link is below in the description. And today we are joined by Tom Dango, who is a paranormal UFO and ET researcher, a remote viewer, and a medical intuitive, and an author of 8 books. And technically more, because you have chapters in the Shining the Light series, which is actually how I actually personally discovered you in the original Shining the Light book, where you were talking about the UFO crash in Sedona and a number of other chapters you chimed in on as well. So
I have your first two books here. You can see them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I know you've been at this for a long time, quite a while. And a lot of people here may know who you are. So I would like to just kind of hit the ground running and get into the meat of everything today. But if you would like to briefly introduce yourself to our audience who doesn't know who you are, we'll give you that opportunity now. But welcome to the show.
Okay. Well, you guys are my 93rd worldwide radio show. I've been at this for about 50 years now. And I've talked to around 90 million people. I figure I was on coast to coast 3 times, so that's 30 million right there. But anyway, I've been the last 40 years I've lived in this area, and this whole area around Sedona and the Verde Valley is one of the world hotspots for the paranormal. It's constantly going on here, one way or another. It's phenomenal. And right now we're dealing with some strange underground base phenomenon, and I'm pushing 80. I'm going to be 80 pretty soon. But there are 4 or 5 serious researchers here that kind of fill me in on what they find, and it's pretty phenomenal. It really is. And I was just interviewed by Ross Coulthard. He's an Australian. He's a professional interviewer, and those guys are tough. Those guys are hard. It was a brutal interview. They had the whole camera crew in there, but he asked some questions. He was basically here researching the bases, and they're partly military, U.S. military, and partly alien, extraterrestrial. And my main focus, since I was about 16 years old, is Bigfoot, and later on extraterrestrial humans. And I've run into 3. I had an extraterrestrial girl materialize right in front of me. I mean, I had to jump back. She materialized so close. So on these shows I've been on, I've talked about just about everything I'm pretty well focused on all kinds of things. So I'm used to some really interesting questions.
Well, I got plenty for you. And I guess let's start with the Sedona Underground, because that's one of the things that came up in the Shining the Light book. I believe specifically a base under the Enchantment Resort. And there's been a lot of testimony of convoys of trucks and vehicles going in and not coming back out and driving into the mountain. And that's just one location. I think there's, like you said, a number of underground bases there. And I know William Cooper talked about the joint ET government bases under the Four Corners area in each of those states. So we know that, there is corroborating testimony that they're in fact there, but what do you know about them?
Well, incidentally, Bill Cooper was one of my best friends early on. So I know a lot about Bill Cooper, and Bill Clinton called him America's enemy number one. And the reason for that was because he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
He was the enemy, and they he probably got killed because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But enchantment, there's something strange in that area, and nobody, the interesting thing is, people ask me, well, what is it? I don't know. But under enchantment, I've been there when, and this recently happened again about 2 weeks ago. It sounds like a locomotive running underground. It sounds just like a diesel locomotive underground. It's exactly what it sounds like. And I was told by one of the employees that works there at Enchantment, that's a real serious researcher into this stuff. He said, we heard that about 2 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago now. So anyway, there's something strange going on around here, and it has something to do with bases, and we know now that the U.S. government is directly involved in this stuff. But I used to be known as pretty reckless when I was young. I'd go after them on their turf. I can't do that anymore. I'm too old, but these other guys do, and so we know that, and this stuff, it's 15 miles from here. It's pretty serious stuff. They've seen some pretty serious stuff. A lot of black helicopters and very strange lights, blue-green lights shooting out of the ground. And on the other, this is around Black Mountain, but on the other side of Black Mountain is Sycamore Canyon, and some of the strangest paranormal stuff that's happened on this planet has happened in Sycamore Canyon. For a long time, I would advise people not to go in there alone, because there are people who have gone in there and never been seen again. So and a lot of them do it anyway. They go camping in there or whatever, but been a lot of recent Bigfoot activity in Sycamore Canyon, and U.S. military, and some kind of probably extraterrestrial. The fact a guy, this wasn't too long ago, he was on a motorbike back there, and he got stopped by 6 guys with M16s, and they told him he was trespassing on restricted government area, and they hurt him pretty bad. They pushed him to the ground, shoved the muzzles of the guns in his face, and slapped him around a little bit. And this sort of thing happens around here. So what's the cause of it? What's the nature of it? I don't know, but there have been, probably in the last 40 years, I call them machine gun incidences, and it's been happening. There's 7 canyons here, and it's happened in all the canyons. And what happens is, and it started in Secret Canyon, and nobody. I talked to people that were here in the 40s, and they don't know who named Secret Canyon. It's a mystery, but it is a very, very strange place. So it seems to be, it was, at any rate, getting back to what I was talking about, these machine gun incidences that happen in all the canyons and out in the flats. What happens is, I interviewed one guy. Usually I have to depend on second or third person interviews, about other people. But I have interviewed a few people, first person, face to face. The one guy named Light, he was in Secret Canyon, and he ran into 6 guys that they have American uniforms on. U.S. military. I've checked. I have friends that are colonels or retired colonels, and I would ask them, and they were all current U.S. Uniform, U.S. military, but they don't have any insignia on them. And so anyway, this guy named Light, he was in Secret Canyon, and it's all national forest back there. It's the Coconino National Forest. So he ran into these guys with different types of U.S. military uniforms on. They all had machine guns, M16s or whatever. And so they stopped him, They said there's some restricted military activity going on behind you, and I found out just recently that is a restricted military area, and it's where one shouldn't be. So that means there's something there, but what is it? I don't know. Nobody else does either. But at any rate, Light said, no, this is a public path, and I'm going to. That's the way I'm going, that way. So the guy stuck the M16 in his face and said, "You take one step, and I'll pull a trigger." That's how serious it gets. This has been going on. The last one I know of in person was an Apache Indian boy. I had dinner with him, and he said he was on Secret Mountain. And it's not really a mountain, it's a mesa. But he ran into 5 or 6 guys that had masks on, and they were all carrying, automatic rifles, and they said they cut him a little tree and said, "You take this tree, you drag your trail, you go back as the way you came in, and drag your trail so you don't leave any tracks." And he said these guys were not human. They were just like the guy that on the motorbike that got knocked to the ground. He said those guys weren't human. And the guy on the motorbike said they were driving a Humvee back there. Or I've hiked back there when I was younger. You can't drive a Humvee anywhere back there. So he said they got in the Humvee and drove it. The ground opened up, and that sort of thing has happened around here a number of times. The ground opened up, and the Humvee drove into the cliff and then closed up again. Yeah, I've interviewed a number of people who have said that's happened.
Yeah. So that's amazing, because I guess the most interesting part to me would be that they're saying that these aren't human. There would be some sort of human hybrid or Men in Black type. Yeah. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, they don't look or act human. They're trying to imitate humans, but it doesn't work too good. And there have been people that have disappeared and never been seen again. Not a lot, but it has happened here. I'd say 4 in the last 50 years have gone into the canyons and never come out. And there was a forest ranger. In fact, this guy was writing a book about it, and I forgot his name now. But anyway, a young forest ranger, he was 22 years old. He walked into Secret Canyon, and he was a survivalist. And he walked in the Secret Canyon, and he's never been seen since. They never found a trace of him. So he saw something that he wasn't supposed to see, and they weren't going to let him. They wouldn't let him go. And they've never found. They looked helicopters, dogs, you name it. And they never found a trace of this guy. And he was a survivalist then in many wilderness areas, but he disappeared. And there's a guy writing a book about him. I'm sorry, I can't remember the forest ranger's name, but it happened.
Yeah. So it seems to me that a lot of this stuff is still happening as of fairly recently.
Well, it's kind of repetitious. It's never the same around here. I've been studying this. Well, I've been here 40 years now. I lived in Sedona 33, and I'm in Cottonwood now, which is 20 miles south. So I'm in touch with. I'm in the middle of a network. I hear everything. Yeah, and the one thing, the Bigfoot activity lately. There's a number of Bigfoot around here, and Dogmen. If you guys aren't familiar with Dogmen, I researched Dogmen for a year, and it's scary as hell, but They're real. And they've been 2 women. I interviewed both these women. I know them well. And a Dogman peeked in her bedroom window at night. And Dogmen have either orange or red glowing eyes. They say Bigfoot eyes glow, but they don't. It's Dogmen. If you see a hairy creature at night with glowing eyes, it's a Dogman. So anyway, and then my other friend, Summer, saw 2:00 in the afternoon, a Dogman ran in front of her car. and she got a good look at it. She knows me real well, so she knows what a dogman is. And she said, "Oh no, absolutely, it was a dogman." And then come to think of it, about a month ago, a woman in Oak Creek Canyon said that I saw this. It must have been. It was a Bigfoot. She called it a Bigfoot, but it was a tall, hairy, man-like creature, and it ran away in seconds on four legs. Big feet don't run on four legs, but dogmen do. I mean, they can outrun anything. A dogman, anything in the woods, a dogman can outrun it, because people have seen them do it. Run a deer down in seconds. That's pretty fast.
Now, so do you believe that these dogmen are government genetic experimental cryptids? No. Do you think they're coming through portals, or where do you think they're coming from?
I wish I knew, but I spent a year. I've studied just about everything weird, paranormal. Well, I spent about a year studying dogmen first-person cases. There's a couple of shows on the radio that are very good. They interview people that have really had dogmen experiences, but they're forgot what I was going to say, but they're absolutely real dogmen, and I've camped all over North America, including Alaska, with my girlfriend, the Yukon. And if I had known about dogmen 50 or 60 years ago, it probably would have changed my whole itinerary. And I'm glad it didn't, because I didn't know that, dogmen are just about everywhere. And the study that I've learned is that dogmen and Bigfoot don't get along. They avoid each other's territory.
That seems to make sense.
And Bigfoot have got the advantage, because they're bigger and stronger than a dogman. But a dogman it's got a face like a dog. They're black, usually black, hairy, long legs. One woman I interviewed said that this thing stood up and it was 14 feet tall. And I go, wow. I mean, that's incredible. Right. She said, yeah, it was on four legs, and it stood up, and its limbs were cracking when it stood up. And she said it was at least 14 feet tall, and this was in Oregon.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of weird stuff going on.
So my question before that, where I think you forgot what you were saying, was, do you believe that they're coming through portals? Like, they're interdimensional?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do stage talks anymore, but I have to tell people, my mind wanders. And so I said, somebody in the audience telling me, say, hey, Tom, you were talking about remote viewing. Okay. So so people would have to remind me. My mind's been wandering for a long time. But nobody knows what dogmen come from. But I've asked Indians. So somebody says, well, have you talked to the Indians? And so I did. My best friends was Cliff Mahooty, was a Zuni elder.
Yeah.
And Cliff, I miss him every day. He was my best friend.
Yeah, we love
Zuni
him.
elder.
Yeah, we love him.
We had him on the show.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Over 4 years ago. We were friends with him. Oh yeah.
Yeah, cool. He's great.
Yeah, he's a very special man. Very special. So I asked him, I said, Cliff, what do you got? Because Cliff worked for the government. He was in charge of 261 tribes in the country. They always thought he was a government man because he worked for the government, but he really was. He was trying to help the tribes. Mm-hmm. But he said, nobody knows about dogmen. All we know is there's something paranormal. But other than that, nobody knows. Then there's skinwalker. I've researched skinwalkers with the Navajos, and skinwalkers are absolutely real. There's a skinwalker ranch in that area. Skinwalkers are a strange creature. They're not a dogman, and they're not any kind of a Bigfoot. I interviewed a woman that had one in Vernal, Utah. near the Skinwalker Ranch. He was running beside the car, and they were doing 70 miles an hour. And she said the thing looked like a mangled deer, and then it veered off and ran off into the desert. And this is just a few miles from Skinwalker Ranch. So I'm famous for the Bradshaw Ranch. That's my thing, And I know the Skinwalker guys. I know Brandon Fugel personally, and so I know what the big difference between the Bradshaw Ranch and the Skinwalker Ranch is. The Skinwalker Ranch is pretty malevolent, and the Bradshaw Ranch wasn't. It was nothing bad ever happened on the Bradshaw. I mean, I was there 4.5 years, and I wrote this book, which is my bestseller. This is my bread and butter. So everybody go out and buy Emerging Dimensions. This is all about the Bradshaw Ranch. All about the Bradshaw Ranch, the whole thing. I've compared the Bradshaw Ranch with the Skinwalker Ranch often. And I was one of the first people that got involved with the Skinwalker Ranch when George Knapp was up there, and that the other guy. Anyway, so it's this is a strange world we live in, and I've been called one of the world's best remote viewers, and I work with some of the best in the world. And there's something strange going on this planet that nobody understands. I've said it many times on radio that there's something strange that there's even the best psychics and the best remote viewers don't know what it is. But I kind of sense it a little bit. And I've talked about this with a friend of mine. He's a retired Army colonel. And he agrees with me that there's just something that's, well, I was on Coast to Coast a couple of months ago, and I talked about this, and Connie said, no, I said, no, Connie, I'm going to talk about this. When I was remote viewing one time, the Mystic 411, David Paulides. I've been involved in that for quite a while. There's thousands of people that disappear in the national parks worldwide, disappear, poof, gone. And so I've never been able to track one. But David Paulides, he named people, especially at this deer hunter, and said exactly where he disappeared on the map and all that. So I was able to remote view, coordinate it, and follow him. You find that there's an energy trail. You can. I spent a lot of time at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and they taught me how to do this. So anyway, I'm tracking this guy, trailing him, and a couple of times I've been asked in interviews, "What did you go up or did you go down?" I said, "That's a very good question." I went straight up, very fast. So in this one case, I was going very fast, and something slammed on my brakes, and I'm stopped. And there's a remote viewers. Early on, remote viewers couldn't. There was a wall that would be put in front of them, and they couldn't get through it. But I early on learned how. I was at a General Stubblebine meeting one time. The best remote viewers in the world were there, and nobody knew how to get through this wall. I wanted to raise my hand. I know how. So anyway, there was a wall there, and I'm looking at it, and the voice said, "This is as far as you go." And I'm looking at the wall, and the voice said, "Don't even try it." So like I said on Coast to Coast, I said, what was behind that wall that whoever they are, don't want us to see. And I wasn't about to test. Don't even try it. We're poor mortals with a physical body. These things without a body, and there's lots of them out there. What they can do to us. So at any rate, I've said that there's something out there that nobody knows. It's there. That something doesn't want us to see it, and so that's
so
heavy duty.
Yeah, okay. So whenever you said you know how to get past the wall, but you didn't go past that wall in that particular instance, but you do know how to get around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what have you discovered in the walls that you have gone past?
Actually, the times that I've gone up through it, nothing. It was just a continuation of the trail, and I'd go a little ways, and then because everybody, remote viewers, somebody does something to you, like a psychic or a remote viewer or whatever, they leave a trail, and if you're taught how to find that trail and follow it, like I was at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, you can find them. I was when I first started, I was born with a remote viewing ability. And I was at the Sedona airport one time, and I felt something really funny. So I stopped and I looked around. I could see an energy, and it was so I followed it. Doesn't it, you can do it in seconds. You can even do it driving a car. It's not something you'd have to meditate seriously on or whatever. But anyway, I found two people. I came down, and two people, as a man and a woman. They were all dressed in black. And I think they were in Hungary or that. And they turned and looked up at me. They could tell that I was there and smiled, big smiles. And they knew the jig was up. They were trying to, and the government's done this to me too. When SciTech was in SciTech was a government offshoot of the best of Ingo Swan's and Russell Targ's crew, SciTech. So I got a letter one time, and I saved it. I kept it. That we've been remote viewing you, and I'm thinking, why? Excuse me. Why is the government? This is about 25 years ago. Remote viewing an unknown schmuck like me. I had one book. Other than that, and I was well known for the Bradshaw Ranch. So the whole team was, and my friend, we're good friends now, very good friends. He sent me the letter. He was a lieutenant colonel at the time. And I said, hey, Ron, what's the deal with you guys, remote viewing me from SciTech, with SciTech? And he said, we weren't. He said, what are you talking about? We never did that. And I said, Ron, I've got your letter right here. You signed it. And he said, I don't know anything about it. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I get involved with.
Wow. So you mentioned in a previous interview, actually, Aaron, did you have any questions before we keep going?
No, keep going.
So you mentioned in a previous interview, you were at, I don't know, some conference or somewhere, and you heard a military remote viewer talk about getting caged, getting trapped on a UFO.
Oh yeah.
And but hearing that story made you realize that you weren't crazy, because you talked about remote viewing craft and ETs, and you even went as far as saying that there's hundreds of UFOs circling the Earth, and some of them are just on trade routes and things of that nature. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I was off many times. I thought I was going crazy. I tell myself I've got to be insane. This is not normal. This is nuts. But McMonigal, he forgot his first name now, but I was at a long time ago. I was at a UFO conference, and we were 6 of us in a circle, and he was standing right beside me. And I'd been going out in space and visiting alien spacecraft, and anyway, he was. I'm thinking I'm not crazy. I'm really not crazy, but the whole government remote viewing team was doing that. And it's actually easy if you're a remote viewer. And so anyway, McMonigal was they were doing it. And if you go, my experience has been is if you go close to there's thousands of alien spacecraft out there in orbit around the Earth. Some are 1 million miles out. But anyway, if you go up to an alien craft and you go closer to it and you feel threatened, you need to get away fast. But if you feel there's no threat, you feel welcomed or whatever, you can go on it. You go right through the wall, and they look up and they all know the damn human, that sort of thing. And so Joe McMonigal, and so Joe, I get a kick out of this. Somebody could be do such a stupid mistake that Joe McMonagle did. But anyway, he was they threatened him not to go on the ship, evidently, and he did. So they put him in a glass cage, and they wouldn't let him out. He did two tours in Vietnam, was shot up real bad. Yeah, and he said, I think if I remember right, he said that scared him even more than being in Vietnam. So anyway, they wouldn't let him go. They had him trapped in this box out in space, and his psyche was up there, and his body was down here. So finally, they let him go. But he said it really scared the hell out of him. So I said, I'm thinking, what a dummy. I knew, an amateur like me, that you get warned, you get threatened, you don't go close, because they can do things to you like they did to Joe, and they could have done a lot more.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff yeah.
We're going to say something, Aaron?
No, I was just saying that's pretty crazy.
Right.
Trapped by an ET race on a.
Well, I know what I wanted to say to you guys. The journey to truth. My whole life, the reason I do this stuff is, and I've said this many times, I want to know what the hell's going on, without any BS.
Yeah.
And there's so much BS. It's really hard to sort it out. There's so many people with bad, imaginations, and it's hard to wade yourself through it, because there's so many people that have created a fantasy, and then they make it real. They believe it. Like O.J. Simpson. Oh, he didn't do it. The government, but he did. All the people at that court said O.J. Simpson definitely killed those two people, but he convinced himself he didn't do it. Well, that's the kind of thing I run into a lot. They'll create a reality. It's impossible, but they believe it.
Right. Yeah. And it's important as a researcher to understand things like that, because and we interview lots of people, and we do encounter a lot of that, and we give the person a stage, and we let them tell their story, and let the audience decide. We're not here telling people what's true and what's not. So it's just a great reminder, to just take everything with a grain of salt. And
a lot of times it'll be not black and white, where somebody will have on that will generally agree with their information, or think their story and their information is real, but then they'll say a bunch of stuff that we're like, nah, also. So it's like, don't ever just, even if you like somebody and you generally think they're telling the truth and their story is real, they can be deceived as well, or they can believe a lot of things that are not true as well. And you just got to use your discernment. And also there is also the trend of, like, people like to throw the baby out the bathwater a lot, where one person will be a fraud, and as a remote viewer, or as a MyLab person, or as an ET contactee, or whatever it may be, and then they're like, oh, see, I told you all that's BS because of this one or two people that are frauds. Which is also not the case. From what I've found, there's truth in every area, but it's a matter of, like you said, there are a lot of people that are just making up fantasies, and some of them actually believe them 100%. Just because they believe it themselves doesn't mean it's actually true, because you can deceive yourself as well. So remote viewing, though, is a powerful tool to actually sift through that and find the truth for yourself. So
I agree.
So that's a great thing to teach people and to get out there.
Yeah, I've been on shows that have been a million listeners, and I've tried to teach. They charge, some of these guys charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to teach remote viewing. Myself and Maureen St. Germain, we taught it for 2 years, and we did pretty good. Maureen would teach the military version, and she said I would teach the Tom Dongo version. It worked out pretty good. We had some people had some stunning realizations about. They learned it. They caught it. And the worst thing is people don't believe they can do it, but everybody can do it if they really try and if they really want to. So anyway, I wish I wish there were millions and millions. I've tried. I've given it away free. There should be millions of remote viewers because the truth that for a good remote viewer, it's impossible to lie to them, so it would just about eliminate liars, so I'm all alone. I'm just, I don't have. I had some friends around here that were good remote viewers, and my lieutenant colonel friend, he was here for a while with his wife, and they've left, so they're not around anymore.
Right.
And a couple of government remote viewers, and they were here for a while, and they've gone, but I don't have anybody to play with.
Oh,
So,
we can connect you with some people. We know quite a few remote viewers just from doing the show over the years, but there's more and more. There's more and more popping
we had
up.
Dr. Courtney Brown on the show last year. Tony Rodriguez is basically a remote viewer now. John Babanco, if you've heard of him,
right,
on the show in the past.
But either way, what I was getting at was there's a lot of people that are teaching it now and offering courses, and it's fairly inexpensive. So I think we're starting to see a little bit more of what you were trying to accomplish. And like you said, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's great. But I want to get back to the story a little bit. You were, when you say there's thousands of craft orbiting the planet, and then you've remote viewed them.
Yeah.
Now, what types of scenarios or situations are you seeing? Are you seeing like just races from all over the galaxy, Galactic Federation type of stuff, reptilian, secret space program type of stuff? I mean, or even our own military? Could you maybe fill us in on some of the things that you witness or remote view?
Well, I've done a lot of research with extraterrestrial humans. There are about, my estimation, there are about 17 races, and 3 or 4 of them are doing everything they can to help us. The rest of them don't give a damn. They say, if you want to blow yourself up, have at it. But there's then there's about 100 humanoids. There's way more humanoids than there are humans, and these humans look so much like us. They're here now. They're among us. And I have a friend that's a psychic, a great psychic, and she said that I got a message that there's many humans that are here to help us because we're in a critical stage of development. They're trying to keep us from blowing ourselves up. But she said they're like phantoms. They're different, but they're human. So, and they're doing everything they can to help us. And I thought, well, wow, that's pretty interesting. I know there are beings out there that don't have physical bodies, but that's a new one on me. Like she says, yeah, they're like phantoms, but they're here, and they're trying to. I've interviewed people that have interviewed extraterrestrials, and some of them say they can't interfere with us because it's not. They'll be punished. It's like a non-interference, Star Trek non-interference thing. They can't interfere with our culture. But there are one in particular said that if you start a nuclear war, we'll stop it. And they said we can't stop it all, but we'll get 80 or 90% of it. So hopefully that's true, I mean,
right.
They've already been stopping it a lot. I mean, there's tons of proof they've been shutting down facilities and stopping nuclear for decades and decades. I mean, you got Robert Sala's testimony, you got many others that they've been doing that for a long time already. So I think they have the ability to pretty much stop that. But they're not going to do everything for us, but they're going to make sure we don't. Because when we set off a nuke, that doesn't just affect us and the planet, that affects other dimensions and all these other civilizations and races as well. So it's them looking out for themselves. You could make the argument more than anything that preventing us from doing a nuclear war or anything like that. So
right.
Well, there's evidence that there's been 2 nuclear wars in the past because there are places in Africa and Pakistan that are glass.
Yeah.
The only thing that caused it is nuclear blast. So there have probably been 2 nuclear wars, and they said we're not going to let that happen again. We're not going to let the Earth be destroyed again. So
Right.
hopefully, they're
Right.
Right. I mean,
Well-
in the Vedas, they describe nuclear
yeah.
Well-
bombs going off. So.
Yeah. And I mean, and the whole Southwest, if you look at it from an aerial view, it looks like a scar, a battle wound, and there's a lot of channelers, psychics, remote viewers, even at this point, that there was some sort of a nuclear war that happened there. There's a whole theory called meltology, if you follow those groups online, where they believe the whole Southwest was melted with nuclear or direct energy weapons. And there's a lot of evidence of that. If you go to Chaco Canyon and even Sedona, and you start really examining the landscape, it seems that there was some sort of destruction by advanced weaponry as opposed to a natural disaster, in my opinion. But we're just now discovering that type of stuff, and there's only theories, but it's interesting to start looking at it through that lens.
Yeah, well, there's probably been, I estimate, and so do other people, 20 to 25 civilizations here before us. I mean, they found stuff that's I think that thing they found, that ball was 3 billion years old, and it had to have been created. So and the guy, the Bosnian pyramid guy, had a photograph of a skeleton that scared the hell out of me. I said, if those creatures, I mean, it was like the alien, the thing, the teeth and the thing going down his back. It was the same thing, but it was a real skeleton. So I mean, if those things existed, people think we're the first and only. Well, we're not.
No.
Plenty of evidence that there were many civilizations here before us.
Not by a long shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is. I think I've seen a replica of the skull, of that skeleton you're talking about. Somebody had it at a conference one time. But going back to the remote viewing, what have you ever looked at Antarctica and discovered anything as far as the underground there?
No. Funny you asked. Other people have. No, I haven't been asked that, and I really, some things. There are a lot of things that are blocked by remote viewers. You just can't penetrate it. And same with me. There's some things where I think we're just not supposed to see. And so but if I saw a map yesterday of what, if all the ice was melted on Antarctica, what might be underneath there, with all the cities and stuff that may be there. So it would be really something to see under the miles of ice. And there are extraterrestrials there. Linda Moulton Howe's talked about it, and she really gets Linda, she proves, when she talks about something, she can prove it. She doesn't just talk about it. So, and there are aliens on the Antarctica that are extremely dangerous to us. They're not our friends at all. I have Linda, actually. We're friends, but we're not very close friends. But anyway, I said, boy, she actually went into that base, and I didn't. I got close to it. I said, this is something I don't want to get even. This is it. This is as close as I'm going to get. But it's down that hole. It's about there's about two miles of ice, and they're at the bottom of that hole. And Linda actually went down there and checked it out, and she said they came after her, and they'll do that. I've had people say, those things can come after you, and that's true. So, but there are, if we have the awareness of this, we as humans have great power, but we have to have the awareness of it. If we're aware of it, we're protected. I mean, we're some spiritual thing that will protect us. But there's so many stupid people. I mean, really dumb people that, I mean, incredible stupidity. I mean, some of the things they said to me, I go, I'm going, what did you say? Huh? Not. So, it's apparent now with all this political stuff that's going on. Some of the stupidity is almost beyond belief.
Right.
So anyway,
yeah. I agree with that. So when you say Linda Moulton Howe went down that hole, I assume you're talking about remote viewing. So she did attempt to
Yes,
remote view it.
yes. Oh, she's a better remote viewer than I am. I mean,
Oh,
I,
wow.
I was with her. I was with her at a conference one time, and she did some stuff that it was way beyond me. I mean, there was a guy there that was testing, see who had remote viewing abilities. He held this bag up with I don't know, a doll in it or something. I completely missed it, but Linda nailed it 100%. So she's really good.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, she was sitting right beside me. I thought, oh man, I thought I was pretty hot remote viewer, but not compared to her. No, I'm not.
Right. So you wrote a book called Merging Dimensions, and
Yeah,
I'm assuming, that comes from that information's all about the Bradshaw Ranch and your experience there. But
yeah.
when you say merging dimensions, what exactly do you mean by that? Do you just mean that at that merging point is some sort of a portal?
Well, that's not Linda Bradshaw. That was her idea for title, and I fully go along with it. No, it means that the Bradshaw Ranch. I was there 4.5 years, uh, a couple, 2 or 3 times a week, and there's our dimension and other dimensions are merging because we experienced that on the Bradshaw Ranch. There's a portal there, there were things when it was open. There were things, beings, and we could smell them, and Linda could sense them. She could see them quite a bit. I couldn't. I mean, I could smell the smells, like roses or burning tar and sulfur. It was, it's pretty strong, and it was. We were out in the middle of perfectly clean air, and we could smell these things. And at times it felt like we were in Times Square. It was so much. They were written in the middle of a shuffle of these beings that have come through that portal. You know, I used to get attacked over this stuff constantly, and I never do anymore because people want to know. They want to. I quit 3 times because I got so tired of the attacks. That the verbal attacks that I got from everywhere. So, but now people want to know. They're curious about everything,
Right.
and I can pretty much whatever I talk about, I can pretty much prove it. What I'm talking about, witnesses. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I've been within 50 feet of an alien spacecraft. I've seen about everybody.
Really?
All these people say, "Oh, gee, I wish I could." You see UFOs. I wish I could see one. I've never seen one. I've seen about 300. And I used to do tours in Sedona. UFO. I had a tour company, but my tours, my UFO tours were very popular. And one night, me and 2 women, I have 2 witnesses. A craft, an alien craft, was 1/4 mile across. It had materialized right in front of us. And what we did was we said, we saw these things flying around, blinking on. And the funny thing is, they're always orange. And so I said, let's in our minds ask them to show up, to blink on for 5 seconds, just so we could see you. So we did. Will you materialize for 5 seconds? And the thing did. It was 1/4 mile across, and it was exactly 5 seconds, and it disappeared. And so I've done this before with other things, with other witnesses. I mean, I had 6 people one time we were, and I'm still in contact with Wade, one of the guys, and his whole family was there. And an alien, it flew. Back then, there was a ye old UFO store in Sedona, and they did tours too. And this craft flew past them. It wanted to be seen. It wanted them to see it. And did anybody have it? Get pictures? No, you never have a camera. Did you get pictures? No. Even if you got one in your hand, you're so stunned by what you're looking at, you can't. Because that's happened to me. You forget. So anyway,
Especially if it's a quick moment. Yeah, you don't have time.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yes. So anyway, yeah.
So whenever you saw, sorry, I'm real quick. You said you saw three beings, I believe at the beginning of this episode. You said you saw three
Yeah.
entities manifest in front of you, or maybe at least one of them did. Can you explain that and who you saw and what race they were?
Well, one was human. The girl was human, and the other two were, you know about the tall whites.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like us. They don't like us. So anyway, I've the girl. I had my girlfriend at the time. It's a long story, but at any rate, she was right there. She saw this happen. And we saw a girl. We were hiking. We were way off in the boonies back then, and it was been heavy rain, and mud was this thick. And a girl came out of the bushes with dressed in a white wool sweater and red pants. No dog. And even around here, women always have a dog with them, even though there's almost no crime. But so anyway, my girlfriend went over. We were trying to find a trail down to some petroglyphs, Sanawa petroglyphs, and I couldn't find it, even though I'd been there a couple of times. The rain had changed everything, so they talked, and I didn't hear what they were talking about. So I kind of motioned to the girl, and she came over, and she was basically talking so low. That's what I had put my ear right up to her mouth, and I said, "You wouldn't have." She was dressed in city clothes. I mean, and it was city shoes. And I said, you wouldn't happen to know where the trail is down at the petroglyphs down there, do you, by any chance? And she went over about 10 feet from where I was standing and pointed down. And I went over there and I said, how did she know? But she was right. So we went down, and me and my girlfriend went down. I mean, it was steep. It was like, super steep. And the girl didn't have hiking boots on. We had serious lug hiking boots on, so we got down there okay. And so my girlfriend, I can't remember her name, a long time ago, but anyway, she was off, and the dry creek was roaring like the Colorado River, flood stage. And so I'm looking at her. Petrolina was her name, and so I turned around, and it stunned me. The girl was standing this close to me. She had. I'm looking up. There's no way that girl could have walked down there, not in city street shoes. So she leaned forward, and I had to put my ear right up to her mouth, and she was whispering about talking very low about the petroglyphs, and it's stuff that didn't make any sense. So before I could get a chance to ask her, what human could do what she did? Ghosts can't do it. I studied ghosts for years, and what she did, no human could do that. So then the girl, she's still. I mean, she was so close. I had to jump back a little bit. So I turned back to Petrolina, and then just for maybe 5 seconds, and I turned back, and she was gone. The girl was. I could see 100 yards in all directions, and the girl was gone. I just wished I had touched her to see if she had a material body.
Wow.
So she was either maybe an ET or something else.
Yeah, she was. And then in the other time, believe it or not, I was in a Safeway supermarket at 9:00 at night, and I was on one show one time, and he said, somebody was invisible, somebody there. And I said, I never thought of that. Either I was invisible or they were invisible, because it was busy night that night, and there were carts wheeling by and all that. And I went over, I saw them, and I went over, and she was white skin, all black. She had black wraparound sunglasses on, and
at night.
Yeah, at night, and all black, Everything was black. Shoes, and he was about 6'5", and I want to call him a Nordic, but I don't know. But he had one green eye and one blue eye, right, like a Siberian husky, and so and I'm standing right beside her, and she doesn't look at me. I mean, I'm studying her because I know she was a tall white, and tall whites, they're notoriously earth human haters. So I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty, this is pretty interesting. I know what she is, and she was tall. I'm 6'3", and she was as tall as I was. And so anyway, the guy comes around the corner. He's about 6'5". Yeah, he's like Brad Olson. That's what I'm saying. He was as tall as Brad Olson.
Oh, let me know, Brad. He's a giant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I said, so anyway, the guy he kind of smirks. He sees the girl because she's like this. She's looking at the people walking by her with carts, and she's just like this. She's terrified. And I'm right beside her. So he comes over with kind of a smirk on his face. He takes her by the arm and leads her off. And they got a cart. Anyway, I don't know where they got it from, but so they're going down the aisle, and they're taking food. Everybody says, "What did they buy? What did they buy?" I want to say white bread, cheap hamburger, and cheap pastries, but I'd be joking. But anyway, they would take stuff off the shelf and look at it, and you could tell they were saying humans actually eat this stuff. You know,
Right.
yeah, and they
ask that question all the time when I'm in grocery store.
And they kept going down. Yeah, they would take stuff off the shelf and look at it, and you could tell what they were saying. Humans actually eat this stuff, and they put it back, and they didn't buy anything. And I had to go, so I left, and they were still in the store. So anyway, that's my 3 experiences with.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
really interesting, and it doesn't surprise me that you would run into them, and it makes me wonder if some of the people I've encountered over the years were actually human.
Yeah.
And there's a few that I'm thinking about that might not have been.
Right.
I do remember an instance where you said that you encountered maybe a darker group of ETs, but they didn't do anything to you because they were impressed that you could see them.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that story?
Yeah. I went, that's interesting. I haven't thought of that in years, but yeah, I wrote about that somewhere, didn't I?
Yep.
I used to be reckless. I mean, I was known for being reckless. I had all these I have phenomenal psychic abilities. And so I went looking for the worst of the worst. I want to know what they were like. And so I did. I found them. They were humanoids. And people will say, are they killing us, eating us? I said, well, I don't know. I want to find out. So I'm with it. There's a group of them. I found myself I materialized in this group of they were humanoids, but they weren't human. And I could feel him thinking, should we kill him? And I'm thinking, no, that wouldn't be good. And so that they were. So I kind of said, can I leave? I've done stuff like that. I mean, I've never been an armchair researcher. I don't. I mean, I go on their turf, and I've been in some scary situations.
So
that's the way. Yeah.
When you say go on their turf, are you talking about what you manifested into the group of them via remote viewing, or did you encounter them on a hike? Like
physically,
or psychic?
Okay, you asked for it, so I'm going to give it. One time I was at the Bradshaw Ranch, and I don't know why, but I psychically sensed something was wrong. I found where a ATV had driven on the south side of the ranch down in a place where there's nowhere an ATV could go. And on the way down, I found a V in the hillside, and it was rock hard dirt. But it's like something you would build around a tent for a water drain. And I'm looking at that, and I said, this is just strange. So I got to the bottom down, there was a sandy bottom. And there was the ATV came to a stop, and there was 2 guys, and they both had size 11 shoes, and they were Adidas or something like that, because it was shown underneath. They both had the same size, same shoes. So and there was also this other track, and it was a human track. about size 12. And it was, in fact, I got to know, oh gosh, my brain, a famous doctor. I got into an argument with him. He eventually agreed with me. The guy that did the surgery on the foot doctor.
Anyway, I can't think of it. I know, but anyway.
Yeah, he did the surgery on Whitley Strieber's ear, pull that thing out of his ear.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he got to be one of my best friends. But anyway, he was. I did a talk in Orange County. Right in the middle of my talk, he says, "Tom, that's what you're talking about is anatomically impossible." So we got in a kind of a friendly argument. And I got warned before I went to Orange County. He said, those guys are going to be really tough. Brace yourself. Because and they were Orange County. I did a talk in Hollywood the night before, and then went in Orange County. And so
when you went down on Bradshaw Ranch, when you saw the V that was diverting the water and the footprint and the size of 11, so what happened after that?
So there was a track, a human track. It weighed, it sunk this deep into hard soil. I put my boot right next to it, and I just made an indentation. So on the surface, so that thing had to have weighed at least 1,000 pounds. Roger Lear.
Roger Lear. I was just going to say. Yeah, I just found it. Yeah.
So Roger said, "No, Tom, that's an anatomic. He's either foot doctor." Anatomically impossible. So well, no, it's not, because I saw it and I photographed it. And so anyway, and I had a gun. The only time I've ever brought a gun with, I have an M1 carbine. It's like, almost like a machine gun. And I had it, I took it with me that day, and I really don't know why. But anyway, I found did the creature, that creature there first? Were the guys there first, or did they meet? So I followed the tracks, the barefoot tracks going away, and this scared the bejabbers out of me. I was following it up a hill, and it had rained, I guess, early that day or whatever, and I was in thick bushes, and there was one track, it was still filling up with water, so I knew that thing was probably in the bushes 10 feet away from me, And having a gun if it had jumped me, it would have been all over. So I got out of there real fast. That's what I'm talking about, going on their turf. And I've some of the researchers around here have found Dogmen tracks out there now in that area. So yeah.
In what instance did you actually? Did they actually let you go because they were impressed that you found them?
Well, just the one where I went looking for the worst of the worst, and I never put myself in a position where I'd be attacked by them. I'm real good at that. I can tell. I don't want to push it any harder, or I'm going to there's going to be something happen. So like going on the ships with the aliens. One time I was at speaking, and there was about 100 people in the room. I said, "You guys want to learn how to go on alien spaceships? Visit them?" And they're going, "Yeah, okay." So anyway, I said, "It's easy. It's really easy." So I taught them how to remote viewing. You project yourself out in space, and it's don't think it's your imagination, because it probably isn't. So go out and find that their ships. They're all kind of different sizes and whatever, and then ask permission if you can go on the ship. And if you get an okay, it doesn't matter. Do it. Check it out. And so anyway, the whole audience did that. And I'll tell you that the expressions on some of those people's faces was, they were stunned, because they really did do it. But I wish I'd have gotten a picture of some of the faces of those people that were, their eyes were about like this, So, but I've always been really careful not to put myself in dangerous situation, and the new Skinwalker show. They ran into they found the tunnels underneath the Bradshaw Ranch. They used ground penetrating radar, and there is a tunnel, a huge tunnel going under the Bradshaw Ranch, and their probes got stopped and sent back that they sent out. So there's something really, really fishy going on around here, and I'm not going to push it. I mean, I'm at a stage I can't do it anyway, but there's something going on around here that's really oh yeah, and I know when the Ross Coulthard was here, I said, I'll tell you, but I know of where one of those bases is, and it's extremely dangerous, and I can prove it. And I told them, you guys go ahead, I'll show you exactly. So they did. They spent quite a bit of time, and they said, well, we're going to research this. A friend of mine said, it took me up there. He's a counterterrorism expert. And the second time they called him once, and the second time they called him, and this is a quote: "You come back here again, and we will kill you." So I said, I ain't going anywhere near that. So they looked at it on Google Earth, and you would never know. But I said, look at this, and look at this. Why does this add up? And they're going, no, it doesn't. Now I see what you mean. But the average person wouldn't. It's right in plain sight.
You're talking about an underground base in Sedona?
Yeah. And it's not in Sedona. It's about 10 miles away from Sedona.
Right.
So
yeah,
he took me up there. He showed me all this stuff. He says, and I'm going, well, what's the big deal? And he said, well, take a look at that. And I go, oh, holy smokes. So then he got a call one day, and I never saw him again. So wow. He got a call. He said, you come back again and we will kill you. And he said, it's an American base. It's a U.S. base, but it's he said he thinks it's a railroad, which is possible, because why the railroads, the locomotive engine sounds under Enchantment Resort. And I would estimate there are 5, I don't like to call them bases, underground installations, and 2 off-duty police, active duty police, got into one of those bases. And that's what they were doing. The research here, they were doing, but it was 105-degree day, and it's the time I was up there, it was 105 degrees too, and it's brutal. But they were using ground penetrating radar, because metal detectors won't work. But anyway, these 2 police, off-duty police, got into one of those bases, and they found a open manhole, like a manhole cover with a ladder going down. So they went down there, and I know almost exactly where it is, and that's where they went. They spent some time up there with ground penetrating radar, and it's hard to get to. I'm not in a shape to think like that anymore. But the 2 police, I had a friend that was an ex-CIA agent. He's the one that was his territory. So him and a girl, and Claudia Sanderson, and so that was their territory. So he interviewed those 2 cops, ex-CIA, and he was ex-CIA. And they said, well, we got down there, and there were tunnels going everywhere. So they walked a ways, and suddenly there was military swarming out of the tunnels towards them with machine guns. And they all had U.S. military uniforms on with no insignia on them. They said, well, you guys turn around, go back the way you came in, and forget what you saw, and don't ever talk about it. So and that's happened. I mean, I'm not making that up. It's so.
I don't think that you are. We fully understand that these bases exist. We've done our own deep dives and webinars on the deep underground military bases or installations, and they are very insignificant sometimes. As far as on the surface, you may not know that there's anything there, and there's only subtle clues, right, and indicators that there will be something below. So one last thing, I want to shift gears just slightly, because part of the reason we're here today is we recently interviewed Zaysan, who is apparently a friend of yours, and he has an incredible testimony, and he was the one who finally got us in contact with you, and I know just from reading his books that you have remote viewed his case and have
Yep.
deemed it to be credible. Can you explain what
Yeah.
you saw when you did that?
You know, Z's credibility is he has a team now. They've saved the lives of 3,200 slave girls in pedophiles, and I think he's been shot three. I think he said 3 times. I know he'd been shot in the shoulder, but I don't question anything. Some of the things that Z, I'm a little bit, I'm going, well, I don't know about that, but I will never question him because his credibility is so indisputable. So anyway, yeah, he's a very, very, very interesting guy. And yes, I did. I actually contacted the captain of that ship that he visits all the time, and I got a conversation with him because I was trying to prove that Z was making the whole thing up. It's fiction, and so I mean that's the way I am, and because I wanted to know, I said, Z, you got to have some kind of proof for this, otherwise nobody's going to believe it. It's just going to be fiction. So anyway, I did make contact with the captain, and I asked the captain all kinds of questions. And I said, Z, does this sound like what you experienced? And he said, yes. And I said, there's a forest on that ship. He said, yes. Oh yeah, exactly. And he told me stuff. So anyway, I'm a complete believer in all that he talked about.
Yeah,
I proved it to myself.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't realize you did that, but I agree. When you read certain stuff, your body, I guess it's kind of like remote viewing. Like no one can lie to you anymore, right? Because you can just sense it. So I feel that way about when I read material. Sometimes I can there's an energy signature behind it that I can't explain, but my body knows. And there's no way I can prove that. But in my personal feeling and opinion, is that he's being sincere and genuine about his experience. So
on top of the fact that he's hardly done any shows. He's not putting himself out there.
Right.
He's clearly not doing this for money or popularity or fame. Like there's none of that. I mean, he's just wrote a bunch of books because he wants to document the story and put it out for whoever's interested. Yeah. But that's it. The only reason we found him is because we're friends with Niara Isley, who and we love Niara. She's amazing. And she was talking she's like, you guys got to have Zaysan on your show. He's amazing. And that's how we found him. Otherwise we had never heard of him or his story, because he's not doing this for that reason, clearly.
Yeah. But my opinion is his integrity is indisputable. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So I just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he's a good guy.
Right.
A good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to him, we're here today doing this interview, which has been fantastic. And thank you for joining us. Would you like to let our audience know where they can find you, how they can get your books and all that?
I'm a pretty much of a reclusive now. I used to get 50 emails a day and that sort of thing. So I'm just a reclusive hermit now. but I'm my books are doing good. They're being reprinted. But yeah, this is the one, Merging Dimensions. This is my. But no, that there isn't. I mean, Facebook. Somebody really wants to get in touch with me. Facebook, my Facebook wall, my page. But otherwise than that, I'm really not available. I'm not like some of these guys. Oh yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean personally available. I just meant how can people research you? I know you have your website, tomdongo.com.
Oh, I'm all over the internet. So just type my name in, Tom Dongo. There's all kinds of stuff will come up.
Yeah, I've seen your name pop up all over the place for years. But I didn't really check you out too much until just a few years ago, and then I was like, "Wow, you've done amazing work. And you've been around a long time." I had no idea.
Yeah,
and I'm glad we finally really get you on the show. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, you bet. No, my pleasure.
Yeah, this has been absolutely great, and Yeah, keep it up. I know you've been at this for quite some time, and you're ready to hang it up and just be a recluse. But every interview you do still helps, and people are still learning, and there's new people waking up every day. So none of it was a waste, and we appreciate all the hard work you've put in because people like you paved the way for people like us, and we'll be forever grateful for that. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. We love you. Like we always say, we can't do this without you. Go check out our Patreon. Go check out our new website, journeytotruth.online. You can sign up for our newsletter, our new monthly newsletter, and you can follow us on Rumble. We have a new backup YouTube channel. Aaron, it's like the 5th one now. We'll see how long it lasts, but
keeps deleting us.
Yeah. And then
I don't like what we talk about sometimes.
And also something new is that we are back on Spotify, which I don't know if many people know that, but we are back on Spotify again. You can find us over there in Apple Podcast and anywhere else, and all the social media.
Also, if you don't like Rumble and you want to do another censorship-free platform, we're on BitChute as well. So
and then all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, X, but we're not super active on X. But anyway, long story short, follow us wherever you can, and the censorship is coming down hard right now, so any support is greatly appreciated. And like I said, we love you all. We can't do this without you. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night.
Namaste.
It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 personnel each to the other with the purpose of learning each of the other. The alien guests would remain on Earth, and the human guests would travel to the alien point of origin for a specified period of time, then return.
Well, what shocked me was how they selected the astronauts. But they went out and found people within the military that were orphans and didn't have any family members and weren't married. Now, that's a difficult task, even in 1960.
But this became quite a mainstay in early ufology of the 1990s, given that in addition to Request Anonymous telling this extraordinary story, there were several alleged DIA or Defense Intelligence Agency officials who were also coming in and saying, yeah, we have knowledge of this case too, and we can verify what Request Anonymous is talking about.
Could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.